Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to some more Astral Chain, and today we're going to be focusing on a very particular Legion ability, Super Armor Omega. This is a pretty self-explanatory skill. Basically, if you take heavy damage, basically any physical hit from your enemies, it will not phase you whatsoever. There will be no hit stun to deal with, meaning you can continue a combo, you can continue escaping. It's a very useful ability. However, there are a couple of downsides to it. Just like in real life, pain is a receptor that you feel because it tells you that you're in danger and you gotta get out of that danger as soon as possible. If you're not used to certain attacks and you just continuously get hit by them, you're going to lose your health really quickly because it doesn't send you out of danger automatically if you didn't have the super armor. So part of what makes this ability so interesting is the fact that if you were to get it on its own as an ability, it takes up 3 ability slots. But if you look at the left side of the screen, you'll see that I can also have it as an additional ability. So under the critical rate 2%, you can see that I also have Super Armor Omega, the exact same effect, which is really useful for the cost of only 1 slot, so you can kind of invest in much more useful abilities while still having it. Armor Omega is still very good to have. Obviously, it's more recommended if you use it if you're just kind of getting through, going ham with your ground combos with the Axe Legion and Gladius combo, but if you find yourself in a scenario where maybe dodging is more important, then you probably don't want to have this one. So just quickly going over the build before I demonstrate why this is such a useful ability. So as you can see, there's a critical rate 2%, which comes with the automatic Super Armor Omega. Item drop rate is more of a bonus, it's not really a big deal, but the fact that I get to have 3 skills in 1 slot is very good. I also have the critical damage, which also takes up 1 slot for an additional 40% crit damage, so if the Axe Legion attacks from behind, you'll do heavy hits. And it also comes with effect spread. And effect spread is a very important skill to have for certain approaches. Essentially, effect spread means that all of these abilities will become available to my player, even if the Axe Legion isn't out. So Super Armor Omega still applies, as well as the anti-poison and anti-slime that you see in the bottom row, which takes up 3 slots because it has slow attack plus 10%. Slow attack plus 10% is really useful too, and goes really nicely with the Armor Omega, because as long as I can keep on attacking, there is a 10% chance that I can freeze the enemy, letting me do even more combos, and maybe even escape, go get some heals, get some items, throw a stun grenade if I need to, or a regular grenade for more damage. It's just very useful, always having commanding position over the fight, and that's exactly why I want to have it. But with effect spread, I'm able to have anti-poison, anti-slime, even if I don't have the Axe Legion out if I'm trying to conserve energy. It's a really useful skill, Super Armor Omega, and it's the kind of ability that you want to have in scenarios where you really don't want your combos to be interrupted. All that being said though, it's important to know when or when to not have it. Like I said earlier, if you're up against really quick enemies that might be able to do large amounts of damage on you, it might be more important to dodge them. But in certain fights where you're fighting against a bunch of slow enemies, and it might be better for you to just focus them down one at a time, finish them off, get your health back, get your energy back, and then repeat the process over and over again. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at what we can do for this next bit. Alright, so let's go ahead and start things off. This is a really simple map that we're going into. If you didn't look on the screen already, it is the R214. And pretty much this is just going to be one small area. We're going to fight against a lot of heavy hitting enemies, really showing off why the Armor Omega is such an effective option for particular maps where all you want to do is just get all your combos down. Now, something I forgot to mention in an earlier video, and it's a very important thing that you guys learn right now, is that when you use a Legion buff, it actually carries over to the next Legion that you choose. So just like that, I have the Power Charge and the Speed Star, just like that, leaving me wide open to do heavy amounts of damage as soon as possible. Okay, so that guy's gonna start things off with the beam, and I'm already doing so much slow damage to this guy here, which is very nice. Okay, so the Armor Omega works really nicely in combination with the auto binds, because more often than not, you're going to find scenarios where maybe the enemy is going to trade hits with you, and when that happens, you can just go ahead, continue the auto bind, stop them right in their tracks, and then do a full chain combo. It's insanely useful with this weapon combination that we're using right now, and honestly, that's why I love it so much. Let's see if we can get a slow attack on this guy. Ooh, one other thing I want to mention about slow attacks as well is that the mines that the Axe Legion drops can actually activate this slow too, so yeah, keep that in mind in the future. See if I can get a slow from this guy if I can. Oh, yep, there's the slow. Get the Speed Star. And then I can go for the auto binds. I actually didn't need to dodge that time because again, Alpha Omega Very, very helpful. Go. Knock him to the ground, as the chain combo always does. And just like that, I can finish them off. We're going through this entire thing unscathed. And you know what? Before the next wave begins, I might as well get into the habit of going for a power charge. Send them forth, do a hit rush, and then speed star. And now we're going to fight against 3 dudes over here. So we can catch them with the chain. There we go. And again, because of the fact that we have Omega armor, we're going to be able to finish the entire combo even though we have 2 guys wailing on me at the same time. This is not possible to do without the super armor, and that's why it's so useful. Of course, it does help to have the amount of DPS that we have, thanks to the fact that we're using the Arrow Legion to buff us up. So the fact that we have all those things going for us, that's basically going to be the main time you're going to want to start using this kind of strategy. Because if you don't have the DPS to back it up, you're going to find yourself wide open with this guy still alive, because there is a bit of a pause after these combos are finished. So fast, my goodness, very, very effective. And again, I can just waltz up to them, auto-bind with the the Super Armor Omega. So fun. The only time I wouldn't recommend doing this, though, is when you're fighting in missions where you don't have any AED charges. When you don't have an AED charge, it might be more advisable to play more cautiously, because if you die, you have to start all the way from the beginning, and no one wants to do that. Gonna go for that power charge. Hit rush, switch again. Oh, we get to find one big guy. So again, it's like so many hits coming our way. This is when you really have to rely on that damage output from the 2 buffs. Take this guy out as soon as possible. Yeah, look very closely at where your player is so you can watch for the glowy bits. And then just like that, we can get all of our health back. In missions where when you don't have any AED revives, it's very, very important to remember to be very careful, because those enemies tend to do a lot of damage too, and sometimes they'll do more damage without you even realizing it. But thankfully we have 1 AED charge in reserve, so that's all good. Man, like that's the cool thing about this build. It's so effective because of that slow damage. That slow damage just gives you a lot more time to react if you want to be able to do things such as go for an auto bind. You may want to even just go for a manual bind so you don't waste the cooldown, save the auto bind for someone else that you think might need it. It's just a lot of fun. There's just so many things that could be said about Astral Chain that I'm looking forward to. I should have just hid, actually. Yeah, let's see if we can... He has still a fair amount of health left, so we might as well just do this. Again, we're at low health, but hopefully the damage output will see us through. No, we can't. Ah, that was my mistake. I should have just gone for a heal, waited for him to slow, follow my own advice for a change. Here we go. Let's finish this off real quick then. There is, I think, 2 more waves following this one, and we're going to get through it really quickly. Or I think there's 1 more wave for this particular fight. I should have been much more careful that time. I apologize. Again, this guy, he's going to go for his attack. A giant clap attack. You guys can understand what's happening on the screen right now, because I know I can't. But again, with the with the Super Armor Alpha, Omega, oh goodness, I keep getting these mixed up even though they'd be exactly the opposite thing. With all the Super Armor though, we can do so much. Okay, so here's the thing, I actually did get hit that time, and that's because I was hit with a stun. The other thing about Super Armor is that if you get frozen, shocked, or stunned, it's not gonna, it's still going to knock you back just by virtue of what it is. That's why it pays to have something like anti-stun, anti-freeze on your abilities, in order to kind of give yourself that extra assurance if you really, really think that it's a good idea to just not get knocked back at all. Been serving us really well so far, though. Yeah, also a nice thing about this, too, is that for these particular maps, again, we're just focusing down people 1 at a time, and once we finish the combos, we can just get all of our health back. So one of the downsides of this build as well is that we do lack a bit of DPS. We can't get any attack up abilities, which is a little bit upsetting, because I like having the big numbers and the ability to melt health bars. That being said though, like, again, if you can just make up the difference with those buffs too, and with the 10% chance of slow attack, again, momentum always in your favor, or almost always in your favor. It's just absolutely fantastic. Dead on. Oh, that was exhilarating. I made a huge mistake letting myself die that time. I think the best thing I should have done is just waited for that slow attack, run away immediately, use the heals, because they give you free heals in these missions, and then switch to Arrow Legion, Power Charge, Hit Rush. Oh yeah, sorry, I should have also mentioned too, the thing about Hit Rush is that it lets you assume control of another legion while that main legion that you use the hit rush on will continue to attack. It's a very, very fun combination, honestly. One of the things about Astral Chain is that it lends itself to so many different playstyles, as I've said many times before, and even with the assistance of just one Arrow Legion, we were able to make up the difference of all the damage we lost as a result of not having attack up abilities. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a different kind of video. I like the idea of showcasing different skills and what they can be used for or how they can be used. And, you know, I have no doubt that more and more people will find more applications for what they do, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to share here on the channel. It might not always be the Legion showcase that I'm used to using, but the thing is, though, some of these people need to know, and what better way to tell them than through these YouTube videos. Anyways, guys, thank you very much. This is a much more brief video than we're used to, but hopefully you guys make use of the alpha. Oh my goodness, this is so difficult to remember, about the Super Armor Omega and its uses. So remember, it's very good in missions where it's okay for you to take damage as long as you're able to finish off the enemies as soon as possible. But if you're in a mission where you can't fight against enemies, that you can't do the finish off moves and therefore recharge your health, it might be better for you to focus on more defensive play or on much more quick play to prevent yourself from getting hit in the first place. And the other thing about it too is that if you're up against an enemy that can freeze you or even has the ability to slime you, slime wasn't really a problem for me because I have the ability to avoid that. But if you have, like, you know, particular enemies that can have the ability to freeze, burn, shock, stun, any of these abilities, then it might be a good idea for you to kind of reassess your approach or not rely too heavily on the alpha. Oh my goodness. The Super Armor Omega. Super Armor Alpha is a much weaker version, as you can see on the screen right now. Only light damage, which is, you know, it's not that bad. But, you know, there's plenty of other options as well. And again, because you can get it in a one-slot ability code, then you can have that whole effect while still having room for plenty more, as you saw with the slow attacks. Anyways, guys, again, thank you very, very much for watching this different video that we have, and hope you guys enjoy with the Super Armor Omega. Really, really fun skill. I said it right that time. Proud of myself. Anyways, thank you for watching. See you guys next time.